Should the Boston Red Sox fire Craig Breslow after yet another underwhelming trade deadline?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So make sure you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. This episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Welcome to the show. What a day it was. Baseball, trade deadline, over with. Lots of built-up suspense and lots of talk from the Red Sox front office about wanting to be a playoff team in 2025 and them going into the deadline with us feeling like they were going to make big moves and have a big trade deadline, only for them to have a very underwhelming deadline. Going to be discussing all of it today. What led to the Red Sox deadline moves that they did make? Where did they drop the ball? Where do they go from here? And I'm going to be diving a little bit into the players that they did get and what they can bring to the table for this Red Sox team. But Craig Breslow is a name who potentially could be the most hated man in Boston right now. This is a guy who goes and in June trades away Rafael Devers. And I actually went on the record and explained why the Rafael Devers trade might not be as bad for the Red Sox as people might think it is. And there has been a lot more roster flexibility. They have been able to win baseball games, and they are currently in a playoff spot. So because they are currently in a playoff spot, like other teams in the American League did, you would think that would mean going out and making big additions to make your team better. And the Red Sox, after this trade deadline, certainly improved, but not improved to the level at which I felt they should have improved in order to be a team that we can take seriously as a title team this year. And the Red Sox front office, quite frankly, doesn't appear to care too much about making a World Series run, at least this year. Next year and beyond, maybe, but it seems like the goal right now for the front office is just to make the playoffs. And Craig Breslow and company said, hey, we are in a playoff spot, so we don't have to make many moves to improve this roster and this team right now. And Sam Kennedy had stressed the urgency of the Red Sox to make the playoffs this year before the season started, as well as even as recently as a couple weeks ago, as the deadline was getting closer and closer. And he made a comment saying that it's been made clear to the Red Sox front office and to Alex Cora and everybody involved that they need to make the playoffs this year. So there was a lot of pressure on Craig Breslow going into this trade deadline. And I was anticipating some big moves being made. And while they did make a couple moves, one of which I like a little bit more than the other, there are still so many holes that they failed to fill on this roster at this deadline. One of those primarily being a power bat. I know the Red Sox were talking about adding a right-handed bat to the lineup to help balance out the lineup a little bit more and give Alex Bregman some help when it comes to being a strength of the lineup as a right-handed hitter. That is something the Red Sox failed to do. And primarily, they could have found somebody who played first base, who could be a more durable option at the position. Because yes, they've had the platoon going of Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro at first base throughout the course of this season. But the problem with that is it's very difficult to bank on a platoon like that maintaining consistency and riding you into the playoffs. And sure enough, with Abraham Toro, while he was hitting really well when he first got called up to the Red Sox after Tristan Casas went down with his injury, and he had been a pleasant surprise early on, you can't really say the same as of late. He has been struggling a little bit at the plate. So why does Craig Breslow feel like the Red Sox can rely on him on a consistent basis to continue to be able to hit well and get the Red Sox into that top-notch tier of teams that are likely going to be competing for a World Series title? And what makes me especially mad about all of it is Breslow himself saying we're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, and after them trading Rafael Devers, him going on record and saying we feel like we're going to finish this season having won more games than we otherwise would have if Devers was still here. This in no way, and he said this word for word, this in no way means that we're waving the white flag on 2025. He said that. He straight up said us trading Rafael Devers does not mean that we are going to trade away everybody at the trade deadline. He said we plan on being buyers, and that is what it is. Okay, so if you're going to be buyers, that means you actually have to go all in and be buyers. Now, something about this whole situation tells me that Craig Breslow has a lot more confidence in the team he has in front of him than we thought that he did. He said, I understand the frustration and disappointment. There's not a lot of sympathy for how hard we tried to get deals across the line. And it's just frustrating because he says this all the time. He claims that they tried to make moves, but they couldn't get deals done. And the big problem is that they are afraid to make a big splash and get rid of people. Craig Breslow's mindset seemingly seems a lot different during the offseason than at the trade deadline, because during the winter, he had zero problems with giving up top-notch talent in the system to acquire Garrett Crochet. And that has been worth it every step of the way. Garrett Crochet has given us for sure what we need as a true number one starting pitcher. No doubt about it. He went and signed Alex Bregman in the offseason. He went and brought in Aroldis Chapman, who has been really solid as the Red Sox closer this year. So I had a lot of good things to say about Craig Breslow after the offseason, but I said we'll see what happens at this upcoming trade deadline, because last year's trade deadline was underwhelming for the Red Sox, and now here we are again with yet another trade deadline being underwhelming. I'm not going to sit here and say that the guys that they brought in are not going to be good contributors for this Red Sox team, because it's hard to prejudge that situation. A lot of people prejudged a guy like Justin Wilson, for example, who the Red Sox brought in this offseason and who actually has pitched better out of the pen than we thought. And I'm definitely going to go a little bit more into more of the numbers between Dustin May and Steven Matz and what exactly the Red Sox are getting in these pitchers. But it's the idea of them still having holes on the roster that they needed to fill and them failing to fill those. And I don't want the excuses of we tried and people don't understand how difficult it is. Yeah, we know it's difficult, but how is it that the Yankees managed to acquire about 8 different players over the course of the last few days to fill the needs on their roster? The Blue Jays, the Rays, making moves, the Rangers, who are right on the Red Sox tail in the wild card race. How do you sit here and just allow all of those teams to get a lot better and you, the Boston Red Sox, kind of fade into the background because you're seemingly not being proactive? And I don't know how proactive Craig actually was when it came to aggressively pursuing players and making phone calls. But to me, it feels like they panicked towards the end and felt like we have to make another move or this fan base is going to lose it. And it wasn't actually necessarily the best move that they could have made. And another frustrating thing about all of this is that there was conversation going on about the Red Sox acquiring Joe Ryan from the Twins. They were getting close. They were making traction on a deal there, and then they just didn't finish and finalize the deal. And that is something I have serious concerns with when it comes to Craig Breslow, is his inability to actually close deals mid-season. Is that a fireable thing? Is this trade deadline a fireable offense by Craig Breslow? If the team does not make the playoffs this year, absolutely 100% Craig Breslow's job needs to be reconsidered, because we cannot sit here with the Red Sox being all talk about wanting to be a playoff team, and then they miss the playoffs and they expect things to change moving forward. Obviously, when you have a team that's playing well, you don't want to mess with that too much. And I do just get the feeling that a guy like Joe Ryan would have probably cost a major league caliber player. And I don't know that Breslow and company wanted to mess too much with the roster and chemistry that they currently have. And that's okay. But the Red Sox have one of the deepest farm systems in the sport. Use it. Go get a bat that you can add to the lineup to help solidify your stance as one of the top teams in the American League. It feels so difficult to feel confident after that trade deadline. And Craig Breslow absolutely needs to be fired if they don't make the playoffs. I don't see it happening now, because if they do, that was their goal. The Red Sox seem fine with just making it in. So I don't realistically see Breslow's job being on the line as of right now because of the trade deadline that they have, especially because they're going to want to see how these guys pan out that they did acquire at the deadline, and see genuinely how they are able to contribute to the team before making a rash decision like that. But this is the second trade deadline in a row in which Craig Breslow has been disappointing. And it's time for the Red Sox to start rethinking the idea of him running the show if they are not a playoff team in 2025, because they made it clear that they mean business this year. And do not say that if you don't mean it. Don't say that if you feel like you aren't going to be a playoff team this year and you're still trying to formulate pieces for the future. Then that's fine. Just say that, but don't get people's hopes up and act like you're going to have this big deadline and then you go and don't do it. So disappointing deadline for Breslow. Absolutely should be fired at the end of the season if this team misses the playoffs this year. But coming up, who exactly are the players that the Red Sox got at the trade deadline? I'm going to be talking about that a little bit next. It's time for you to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. My husband's a big golfer, and every time he's out there on the course, he needs to energize himself, so he always stocks up on these. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. These things are a complete lifesaver. I promise you, if you like to do a lot of things outside, especially in the 90-degree heat that we've been getting this summer, you definitely should have these in your back pocket at all times. They will make sure that you stay hydrated and that you continue to have a lot of energy. Well. Another trade deadline has passed, and yet another trade deadline where we find ourselves wondering what exactly was the thought process of the higher-ups in the Boston Red Sox organization. What exactly were they hoping to get out of this deadline? And it's crazy because Craig Breslow, in talking about the deadline, said that the Red Sox feel they were uncomfortably aggressive at this deadline and other teams needed to say, hey, that's enough. But I really find that to be incredibly just disappointing and honestly not really that true, because if they were uncomfortably aggressive, then they probably would have ended up with another key starting pitcher, or at least a strong bat that they could have added to the lineup. But I almost feel like they were a little bit too conservative in certain areas. He also said we pursued a number of really impact opportunities. Obviously, not all of them work out. It wasn't from an unwillingness to get uncomfortable. Okay, Breslow, whatever you say, dude. He said the team has been playing well, one in which the playoffs are firmly in view. We pursued as much as we possibly could, ultimately brought in Matz in May. So he really is just going around everything and trying to justify the trade deadline that they have, and said we were aggressive and we were trying for other moves. I just am not buying that, because other teams were able to add a lot more pieces. And I think the Red Sox, stayed put for too long, weren't sure if they even wanted to add big pieces at the deadline. And now here we are. And they got into desperation mode, and they added two pitchers who for sure could help them, but they just didn't do enough. And who exactly are the players that the Red Sox got? So they acquired Dustin May and Steven Matz. Dustin May has been struggling with the Dodgers this year. And his most recent start was actually ironically against the Red Sox last weekend, and the Red Sox kind of pounded him. In fairness, the Dodgers have a ton of starting pitching, and now they have guys healthy again. Blake Snell in particular is healthy, so there wasn't really a spot for all these pitchers, so it kind of made sense for them to move on from somebody. But in return, the Dodgers are receiving outfielder / first baseman James Tibbs III, who the Red Sox actually got in the Rafael Devers trade in June, and they're also receiving outfielder Zach Earhart. This is a situation in which the Red Sox definitely overpaid for a guy who is risky. And while healthy, he certainly does have some good stuff, but his metrics this year have not been very good. And that is also the problem, is he doesn't have a strong ability to be able to stay on the field. So I am very concerned about the way that he's going to be able to contribute. But if he is healthy and he is able to figure something out, maybe a new environment is best for him, then he could be a guy that, you could throw out there in a playoff game on the mound and feel almost like you could trust him, because he's been around a World Series team with the Dodgers, so he understands how to perform under pressure. But there are a lot of risks that come with this, and I don't know that I necessarily would have given up our number 10 and number 30 prospects for a guy like this, but here we are. He turns 28 in September, and truly has mostly struggled. In 18 starts and 1 relief appearance this year, he has pitched to a 4.85 ERA with 97 strikeouts and 40 unintentional walks in 104 innings. The 2025 season marks his comeback from Tommy John surgery. So obviously, if you're coming back from Tommy John, you don't really know how a pitcher is going to be, but definitely an underwhelming season for him for sure right now. He is owed the balance of a $2.14 million salary for 2025 and is eligible for free agency this coming offseason. So this is a rental. And for a Red Sox team, again, here we go with Craig Breslow kind of dropping the ball, that has said that they wanted to focus more on young, controllable pitchers. Now here we are, and they got a rental, which is something that I thought they were trying to avoid when it came to the starting pitching market, and they had to give up 2 pretty good prospects for him. Now, the underlying numbers for James Tibbs aren't super insane and stand out and scream this kid's going to be a stud at the major league level, but that's not really the point. The point is more the principle of it, that they overpaid to get a guy who's going to come and pitch here for a couple months and then will be a free agent. And if he pitches well here, maybe the Red Sox decide they want to work out a contract with him, but definitely an overpay for sure. Would not have given up all of that for him. Tibbs is a 22-year-old Florida State product and a former number 13 overall pick. This season, he's split time between high A and double A with a slash line of .232 with a .359 on base percentage and .404 slugging and 13 home runs in 86 games. He has an OPS of .733 across parts of 2 minor league seasons. And Earhart, the other prospect that the Red Sox gave up, also 22 years old, has likewise been at high A and double A this season. The former 13th rounder has a .737 OPS for his pro career. Now, it was no guess that the Red Sox needed pitching depth, particularly in the rotation, and that has been the case. And I know that was something that the Red Sox were planning on focusing on, but they needed to do more because you still obviously have Garrett Crochet as your number one starter. And then you also have Brian Bayo, who's been pitching pretty well. But now, because you didn't add an impactful number two starter, you're looking at the reliance of Lucas Giolito to carry you through. And while he has been pitching pretty well overall for the Red Sox this season, that's a risk and a gamble to take, is relying on him to pitch that well. Because honestly, I'm not looking at Giolito and saying 100% that I would trust him to pitch in a playoff game right now. I'm being honest with that. I don't see it. Hopefully he would prove me wrong, but he's not a starting pitcher that really moves the needle for me when it comes to throwing in a postseason game. And obviously now Dustin May, who is a question mark, it just puts more pressure on your other starting pitchers when they could have added a nice number two starter to slot in behind Crochet, who could have been the guy who you can have as your 1-2 punch, no doubt. And then it takes a little bit more of that pressure off of Bayo and Giolito. But nope, here we are. The Red Sox were not able to move the needle significantly. So Dustin May is here, and we'll have to see how he does. His metrics for this season are rough. 14th percentile in average exit velo, a little bit better in strikeout percentage in the 44th percentile, but that's still average. 29th percentile in walks. So his command has not always been there this season. He has 4 pitches that he utilizes in a sweeper, a sinker, a four-seamer, and a cutter, and he uses the sweeper the most. I'm sure the Red Sox are going to try to hone in on that pitch and have him use it a lot, but definitely some question marks there. There is a lot of upside if he is healthy. He definitely has found some success, and we have seen him pitch well with the Dodgers, but that's a big if, and that is a problem. So we'll have to see how he throws, but who exactly is the other move that the Red Sox made, and what is he going to bring to the table? Steven Matz from the St. Louis Cardinals that the Red Sox acquired on Wednesday night. In return, St. Louis is getting first base prospect Blaze Jordan. The 22-year-old is hitting .308 with an .872 OPS and has slugged 12 homers across AA Portland and AAA Worcester this year. He entered the season ranked as Boston's number 20 prospect. I do know, that the Red Sox infield is kind of crowded, and most likely Blaze Jordan would have been roadblocked at the major league level. So ultimately, moving him is justifiable for that reason, but I definitely am going to miss him. Really good kid. I spoke with him pretty extensively in Worcester after he made his AAA debut. Good head on his shoulders, plays really good baseball, and just is out there giving 100% all the time. And his ability at the plate is something that we don't always see. So definitely a tough prospect to part ways with. There's a lot of ability there, and he'll probably get an opportunity in the majors a lot quicker with St. Louis. Ultimately, with the young talent the Red Sox have in their infield right now, combined with the veterans of Trevor Story and Alex Bregman, there likely wasn't a potential spot for him in the near future on the major league roster. So the Red Sox got it done, and they got Steven Matz. Matz, in 32 appearances, with 2 of those being starts for the Cardinals, he went 5-2 with a 3.44 ERA. He dominated left-handed hitters, with lefties averaging just 179 against him this year. So I will say the plus side with Matz is that the Red Sox could use him in a hybrid role. He could be used as a starter where if they want to stretch him out, or he could be used in a relief role where he's pitching multi-innings out of the pen. So over half of his relief appearances this year spanned multiple innings, and he threw 39 pitches in one outing on July 13th. So he does have the ability to go for longer in games. So that will make things a little bit interesting in terms of what the Red Sox want to do with him. And I know that's something that really intrigued the Red Sox about him, was that he has this flexibility to be able to pitch both as a starter or in the pen. The Red Sox do plan on using him primarily in a multi-inning role and as protection for left-hander Justin Wilson. He marks the 5th lefty in the bullpen alongside Wilson, Aroldis Chapman, Brennan Bernardino, and Chris Murphy. Bernardino or Murphy will likely be optioned to AAA to make room for Matz just because of the lefties and trying to balance things out. He's also going to be a free agent after this year. He's in the final year of a 4-year, $44 million deal that he signed before the 2022 season. He has about $4.1 million remaining on his salary before hitting free agency. So another player that at the end of the season, the Red Sox are going to have to evaluate to see if he's somebody that they would want to continue to have in Boston beyond this season. Blaze Jordan is a Rule 5 eligible prospect for the Red Sox this winter, and he's just seemed to be a prime prospect for the Red Sox to trade. And then that seemed even more the case when the Red Sox opted not to promote him when they needed first base help following the Tristan Casas injury. Throughout his minor league career, he basically has had a dip a little bit in his offensive production after being promoted to AAA. He started off really hot, and not like he was playing poorly or anything like that, but just a little bit of a dip after going to AAA. He had posted a 928 OPS in 44 games in AA, but has an 809 OPS through 43 games in a very hitter-friendly Polar Park at AAA. So the Cardinals are getting a really young, talented prospect here that they can groom in their system, and then hopefully he'll get his opportunity in the majors because that kid definitely deserves it. And Steven Matz definitely never lived up to his 4-year contract with the Cardinals, but he had finally found a niche with them this season, and he's having a good year. So he could actually be somebody who contributes a lot for the Red Sox, and I do like that flexibility of them being able to play him either as a starter or as a multi-inning reliever. So we'll have to see exactly how he gets utilized. But what happens now for the Red Sox? Where do they stand relative to everybody else in the AL? I'm going to be discussing that next. So if you are looking for comfortable attire, hats, and golf gloves in particular, look no further than Gameday Hue. Gameday Hue makes clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. My husband actually reps the golf glove on the course, and he really likes it. So you should check out Gameday Hue today, and don't forget to use that code MLB15 either, because nothing's better than getting money off on things. Where do the Boston Red Sox go from here? Well, after all this talk and the trade deadline they had, now they are forced to have a massive winter. And while Craig Breslow did underwhelm at this trade deadline in terms of the moves that were made, he has the opportunity to really put the Red Sox into no doubt World Series contention if he makes the right moves this winter. And like I mentioned earlier on in the show, he has done a good job of really improving the team in the offseason based on moves that he's made then. But his trade deadlines so far have definitely been very underwhelming, and that has been an issue. And where are the Red Sox now relative to everybody else? Because now it feels like the Red Sox are a step behind other teams in the American League. Even the Angels, who are about 4 games out of a wild card spot, decided that they were going to be buyers at the trade deadline. The Blue Jays, who are winning the AL East right now, got better. The Yankees got a lot better. The Rangers, who are right on the Red Sox tails, got better. And the Red Sox, it feels like, yeah, maybe they got a little bit better, but not better enough to the point where I can feel really confident that they will maintain that playoff spot. And again, I hope that I'm wrong. And I hope that, Craig Breslow shows people that he might have been on to something by not making a crazy number of trade deadline moves, but what happens from here is this puts a lot more pressure on the guys that they currently have to continue to step up. I'm looking at the Abraham Toros and Romy Gonzalez's of the world, the guys who play first base that the Red Sox are going to be relying on for the rest of the season. It puts pressure on guys like them. It puts pressure on guys like Giolito to perform well in the rotation. And it just puts a lot of pressure on people that I was hoping would not need that kind of pressure, because I thought the Red Sox were going to make more moves as a security blanket and address all of the holes that needed to be filled. Do I feel confident right now that the Red Sox will be a playoff team? Not necessarily. If the other teams around them have also had underwhelming trade deadlines, and I would say, yes, for sure, the Red Sox are in a playoff spot right now. They added a couple pieces, so they are a better team. And yes, while they may have gotten a couple guys that could help them win a few more games, the problem is that other teams made big splashes to increase probably their chances of winning even more games down the stretch here. So because it doesn't feel like the Red Sox really improved that much, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can kind of see what I'm doing with my hands. The Red Sox are kind of here right now and maybe went to here, whereas you have other AL teams that were kind of right here with the Red Sox that are now way up here because of the moves that they made at the trade deadline. So the problem is those teams are likely going to skyrocket up in the standings because they made all of these moves. Now, of course, nothing's guaranteed. You really don't know for sure how this is all going to play out. But because the Red Sox still do have a couple glaring holes, backup catcher is another one. I thought that was another market they were going to look on the trade market. And while they claim they were pretty active in trying to get deals done, they were unable to do so in that regard. And it just turned into a complete and epic fail of the fans and the front office meeting each other halfway, because that just totally didn't happen. And the front office totally did not live up to, once again, things that they were saying. So I don't necessarily feel that confident in the Red Sox ability, because yes, obviously prior to the deadline, they were a playoff team. So they obviously have some talent on their roster that makes it up to be able to allow them to be a playoff team for sure. But if other teams improved a lot and they didn't, how can you really feel confident in that? So what happens now is we just have to hope that it's enough. We have to hope that, first of all, May and Matz actually pan out to be good pitchers for the Red Sox. And we have to hope that, for two, the offense continues to do its thing, because they failed to get a big bat at the deadline. So here we are. Tough situation for the Red Sox to be in. Not really believing a lot of what Craig Breslow has said about how the Red Sox went about this deadline, but here we are. Definitely underwhelming. At least they got a couple pieces. All we can do now is hope that these guys are actually able to contribute a lot, and the Red Sox are able to maintain course and be able to continue to win games as much as they have been as of late, and that they're able to execute in the close games. And I do worry about the clubhouse vibes being a little weird now, because these guys might feel like they wanted the front office to do more, and they didn't. And we went through this literally last year. You had guys on this Boston Red Sox team making comments last year about how they really wanted the team to make a lot of moves to make them a World Series contender. But how do you sit here and feel like the front office sees you as a World Series contender when they didn't really make any big splashes at this trade deadline? So looking ahead to the winter, got to make huge moves. I'm still choosing to feel like, yes, they could make the playoffs, but I'm not as confident in their ability to make the playoffs as I was prior to the deadline. And that's sad, because they did get a little bit better. So theoretically, when they get better, you should feel more confident in their ability. I just don't like how other teams feel like they got a lot better than the Red Sox did with the moves they made. Again, I say feel like, because you really don't know for sure until this all plays out. But definitely infuriating trade deadline overall. All of the frustration and feelings are valid. The question is, will they close the door on Craig Breslow? Time will tell on that. I'm sure their results at the end of the season will also contribute to that. But I know it's incredibly difficult to do right now. But like I do always say, make sure that you try to keep the faith and the Red Sox, because ultimately that is what we are here for. I do appreciate you tuning into this show and making it your first listen of every day. Make sure to next check out Locked On MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our hosts are here every game to talk about everything that's taken place that night around baseball. So you won't want to miss that because you'll be kept in the loop on what's going on across the league. So continue to tune in. I have some big guests lined up for the show, so you won't want to miss those either. Go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.